which is, yeah.
Sometimes we think that Jesus' life was kind of scripted.
Yeah.
You know, maybe we think he wasn't feeling whatever he was going through, but had he not felt the way he was feeling, he wouldn't be human then.
Mm-hmm.
Then it would be unjust. You know, our redemption wouldn't be complete.
Yeah.
But to redeem us completely, he had to become us completely.
Mm-hmm.
So Jesus suffered hunger, you know,
Mm.
thirst. You know, he could get tired just like we do. He could even cry.
Yeah.
Somewhere it's written Jesus wept.
Yeah, which
You
is
see?
nice because
Yes.
you men, huh?
Yes.
You men, who
Women, we man up.
believes? Like, you people believe that crying
It's
is
a weakness.
a real bad weakness.
How I handle uncertainties in my
I
life.
love that.
And one thing I realized is that trusting God takes us to know him. The more invested in God we are, the more our trust stands firm. I've been facing a lot in my life. I wouldn't say that, you know, trusting God is easy. No, it has never been easy.
No.
But it was the right thing to do.
Mm.
Because had I not trusted God, where would I have been? So dealing with maybe schooling and coming from, you know, a country where, you know, more than 1 million people were killed. You know, families started from scratch in 1994, 1995. And people still kept on having faith that maybe good times are ahead. And now see our beautiful country, Rwanda, where it is 31 years later, you know, where people can access education, work, and, you know, we are having good times so far.
Yeah.
And I'm not different from the rest of Rwandese.
Yeah.
I went through a lot.
This is SunTalk Podcast, and I'm Sunny.
Like, I don't have something which pushes me. So, and I want to do everything that can make God famous.
And my mind was like, I said wahala.
Yeah.
Now, when you let it go into God's hands, that's when he comes out with a better version of your life.
Woke up and let's do this. Yeah. Hi everyone. Welcome back to this podcast. SunTalk Podcast, and I'm your host Sunny, and I hope you are a believer, you know, and everything around that. So I'm very glad that you were able to come back here, and praise the Lord that you are here. Today we are so blessed and honored to have this friend of mine who is Jack.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. I'm so glad that you made it.
Yeah, God's grace made it for me.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And what a privilege to have, you know, this guy that I know for so long.
Yeah, it's been decades.
Yeah, decades. Almost two. Yeah, and we had this kind of maybe 6 years without, you know, seeing each other, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and then here I find you at English Church.
Yeah, Kigali English Church.
Kigali English Church, which
Kibagabaga.
which is your, you know, you are a member in that
I'm a
church.
registered member
You
since
are.
2020.
Mm-hmm. Since 2020.
So it's been 5 years almost.
Yeah, okay. You are a regular one.
Yeah, regular.
Yeah. And I had a chance to have you in my church. And you came to, you know, to give a word, and God chose you that day, and you get. Do you remember?
Yeah, I do remember.
Do you
Once
remember
in
the
a while
word?
I used to come to
Yeah.
your church,
Yeah.
actually Kigali Bilingual Church, and it's always a privilege for me once I'm called to speak,
Yeah.
I really enjoy it. It's my
And
pleasure.
it's a very, very great thing that you come and, share with us everything that, God tells you to tell us.
Definitely.
Yeah, I have a sister who is a fan, I guess.
Oh,
She's
my
like,
pleasure.
tell
I'm so
him.
humbled.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
like, tell him that, she has a fan here. I love the way he speaks, and it's emotional,
Oh.
spiritual, and
Oh.
everything.
That's so
So,
humbling. Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate. Greetings to your sister.
yeah, her
Yeah.
name is Mami. So,
Oh,
shout out to her.
hi, Mami. It's my pleasure to hear you.
Yeah. I guess you will come home and see her. Yeah,
definitely.
you are
If
invited.
God allows.
Yeah,
Yes.
you are invited.
Thank you.
You
for
are.
the
You are.
invitation.
Yeah. So today, we are about to dive into the word, and our theme that God gave us is trust in uncertainty. Yeah, which is like, what is your definition of trust?
Well,
Yours.
Yeah, I believe that in our day-to-day living, it is
Mhm.
as if we live out of trust.
Yeah.
Even as we are, having this podcast,
Mhm.
we trust that the sound is okay.
Yeah.
Trust that the
We do.
images are really doing well. We
Mhm.
trust the tech team behind everything.
Mhm.
So for me, trust is about believing
Yeah.
the one you trust.
Yeah.
Believing in someone and trusting them, they go hand in hand.
Yes.
So I'm just limiting my definition in trust, but if you include
Yeah.
trusting in God, that would be another thing.
Yeah, let's do it. Trusting in God. What does it mean for you in a narrow way?
Well, first of all, I would say that we trust the one we know.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost impossible to have trust in someone you don't know. So
yeah, obviously.
when we get to be acquainted with God's ways, His
Mhm.
nature,
Yeah.
the way He deals with us,
Mhm.
that create trust. So trust is like a response to our understanding and actually our knowledge of God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the power. You cannot trust a person
Yeah.
that doesn't have any power. Like,
Definitely.
yeah. Or security, I guess.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
There is even a way you feel safe around that person.
Exactly.
Even if you can't see the person, but you trust that something is going on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we call trust.
Yeah, yeah.
That trust, that state of connection you have with that person is
Mhm.
trust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The intimacy. I think the intimacy between us and our God creates that trust.
Definitely.
Yeah.
More intimate we become,
Mhm.
more trust we have toward
Yeah.
Him. Yeah.
True. And the topic is trust in uncertainty, which I think it's very interesting because trusting, like, no, the uncertainty brings the anxiety and everything that can surround it. You're not sure.
It challenges the trust.
Yeah.
True.
It challenges that trust
Yeah.
that you have. So
Mm.
it's easy to trust
Yeah, when
God
things
with
are good.
yeah.
Yeah.
You're like, thank you for this, thank you
Yeah.
for that. But when things turns around
Yeah.
and when things becomes a little bit weird,
Mm.
that's when trust is shaken.
Yeah.
So that's what we are going to discuss.
Yeah.
And I know that the stories in the Bible that would help us to dive into the whole topic. So
Yeah,
would you tell
definitely.
us, please?
In the Bible, there are, I would say the Bible itself is a very great resource
Yeah.
when it comes to understanding how we should be, relating with God,
Mhm.
especially in terms of trusting Him.
Yeah.
And even when God created mankind, I love to start with Genesis. 'Cause
Yeah.
that's where everything starts
Yeah.
off with
Mhm.
mankind.
Mm-hmm.
God created man so that man could lean on Him completely,
Yeah.
depend on Him, have that 100% trust
Mhm.
toward God.
Mm-hmm.
But then the devil came in
Mm-hmm.
and he kind of shook the trust that they had with God,
Mm-hmm.
the trust they had toward God.
Yeah.
God said this and the enemy came in. He said, no, you shouldn't trust him that much. Maybe he hid something from you.
Yeah.
He's depriving you from, your freedom.
Mm-hmm.
He's even giving you laws. So
Yeah.
right from the Genesis, we see that trust was at stake.
Yeah.
The trust that, we should have toward God.
Mm.
And it's the same trend even right now as we speak.
It is. And today, I was telling him that I'm in therapy. So he's going to help us to increase the level of our trust, and also to understand that even though you are in a certain place or in uncertainty, this earth is full of chaos. I always say that. So if it is full of chaos, maybe you are studying but something is not going, you don't have fees, or maybe your work is not working, and maybe your relationship with people, maybe your family and everything.
So our whole life is made up of uncertainty.
Yeah.
It seems so.
Yeah. So I'm going to represent you because right now I'm full of uncertainty. So you are going to help us and tell us about Abraham, how he overcame that uncertainty when he was about to leave his home.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think Abraham is a typical example when it comes to trusting God.
Yeah.
And from the start, we hear of Abraham when God was calling him out of his homeland. And God told him, Abraham, you are my chosen. And then I've chosen you to go to another land, which you don't even have a clue about.
Yeah. Just go.
Just go to the land I will show you. And Abraham really had to have this trust that though he didn't know where he was going, but at least he knew God knew where he was going.
Yeah.
So that's I would say, the foundation of our trust. It simply takes us to understand that when God says, trust me, though we don't have a bigger picture like he does, but at least we know the one who is telling us whatever he wants to tell us.
He's big.
He's bigger than, our thinking. His ways are bigger than ours. So we trust that where he's leading is sure.
Yeah.
And it's for our good.
And that thing it's for our good that we don't know his plan for us. Like, okay, we know that his plans are good. Yeah. That's what the Bible says.
But it doesn't give the full map.
Yeah.
Which tells you, go.
Yeah, which gives some sort of anxiety, because I'm a freak, a control freak. I can use that term because I like when things are, clear and perfect. Yes, predictable. That's the term, I guess. Yeah, if I start this and then it's gonna go like this, and this will be the challenges and I'm gonna overcome them like this. But then when it comes to just go like Abraham did, and also we could not forget Abraham and his wife Sarah, because Sarah also, she had this trust that Abraham trusted the only God. You understand? Because God didn't talk with Sarah at that time. Yeah, the guy came in and he was like,
God said,
God said,
packing everything.
That's unreal. That's unreal, the way that they had this trust. Okay, so it was trusting through Abraham, actually, which is huge.
Definitely.
Which is huge. And because you cannot tell me just go and we, come there. Like, you would tell me the whole plan and everything, but he came in and he said, God said, let's go. We don't know where we're going, but we're gonna go ahead. Which is crazy these days. I don't know if we can do that.
And I can put myself in the shoes of Abraham and Sarah and think of the uncertainty that really kicked in. Maybe they were well settled.
Yeah.
where they're living. Maybe they had businesses,
Yeah,
they had even family.
Yeah,
Had
because
family.
they said that
Yeah.
Abraham was very rich.
He was very rich.
So he
Imagine
w-
amassing, that massive fortune.
Mhm.
And someone, in a blink of an eye, he says, just leave.
Yeah, just go.
You can imagine, how will I survive?
Yeah.
How is the land?
Yeah.
You can even imagine, anything that might happen along the way.
Mhm.
But Abraham knew God.
Yeah.
Though he didn't know everything about, his surrounding, but at least he knew the one he was with
Yeah.
in the process.
Yeah. So I do remember the first time that I came at school.
Yeah.
I was like maybe 11 or 12, I don't know.
Yeah.
And
high school.
yeah, in high school, my first year.
Yeah.
It was crazy because I came on my own, had a friend of the family who brought me
To school.
and to school, and he led me down to the gate.
Yes.
You know the gate, yeah?
Yeah.
And imagine that huge space with a kid of 12 years and
Familiar zone.
yeah, not a family. I didn't know. It was crazy, but when I stepped into that land, I said, okay, now I'm Abraham. So lead, because I don't know how this whole thing gonna go. And it's a very small thing, but I think it will be huge if we do the exact same thing we do as a little kid.
Yes.
Because we are so free. But now the whole situations, and you are like, no, I can't do this, because sometimes God tells us to leave the place.
Yes.
I think it's more harder to leave the place than to go.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, because leaving
Yeah.
means you're gonna go somewhere else that you don't know,
Yeah.
and you don't know the whole situation, which is crazy. And Abraham is called to be a father of multitude.
Yes.
Yeah,
I didn't even have a kid.
Yeah, which is crazy. His whole life is really,
And don't forget,
really.
he was post-menopause, alongside his wife. They couldn't bear children. But God told him, Abraham, I'm going to start with a mindset shift.
Yeah.
By renaming him, God was doing a mindset shift. You look yourself like a single person,
Yeah.
but you knew, I see multitudes.
Right.
I see nations in you. And then God gave that name Abraham, just kind of shifting his mindset toward God's plan instead of his own plan.
Yeah, instead of his own, which is crazy. Okay, so we talked about other names in the Bible, but Abraham brings me the other name, which is Moses.
Yes, Moses.
Moses trusted God he trusted him without knowing what to do.
Yep.
Yeah, the time that God told him, like, you are about to bring this whole crowd of people in your land.
Yes.
That he didn't know.
Yep. He hasn't been there.
He hasn't been there. He just hears, like, the parents says, we have a land. I think them also, they didn't come from there.
Yep.
They was born in Egypt.
Yeah, he was born in Egypt.
Yeah. And
he was born in hard times. He could have been killed, you remember?
Yeah. Very hard time. Could you tell us a little bit, those who don't know?
When I think of Moses, I see God's providence. And by the fact that Moses was born in such hard time, no one could have imagined that Moses would survive as a son, because every son that was born was meant to be killed in a subtle way. While giving birth, the midwives could do some tricks to make sure that all sons are dead, but all daughters could survive. And God's providence made a way that Moses could, survive that, I would say, genocide, in another term. And being born in a foreign land, they were Hebrews. They knew there was someone called God. But it seems that God wasn't in the picture. Where is God when sons are dying? Where is God when, the Hebrews, are oppressed? So Moses was born in a time of uncertainty, if I would say. But his parents now, regardless of their surrounding, regardless of their, the atrocities that were happening, they believed in God so much that they started educating Moses. And it is said that in his first 5 years, he was really educated about God. And that foundational education really kept Moses in faith. Though he didn't know or understand how he'll use that faith, because he didn't have a plan of saving Israelites. But God had a plan. So we see that the parents of Moses had really faith. They trusted in God. And the same trust was transferred to their little child who grew up in the palace, in a heathen palace, where he was taught, almost everything but God.
But God.
Anything else except God. And yet he maintained the faith. So I would say that the parents, I would even say that our relationship with God is somehow influenced by where we are coming from.
Definitely.
If we didn't have enough background, parental guidance, I think our foundation is kind of shaky. But yet God has a way of educating everyone, regardless of not having parents.
No one will, get lost in that way of going to heaven. Because God is in charge. He is. We gotta trust that. So the uncertainty again comes in when Esther was in the palace and her people were about to be killed, and she was uncertain of how this whole situation will be in the future. Would you tell us a little bit about Esther?
About Esther, first of all, let's remember that Esther was an orphan. Maybe her parents died in the process of seeing Esther in the picture, because we can only see her with I would say with Mordecai. Mordecai, who acted both as a cousin but as well as
an
uncle. And Esther really had so many reasons to doubt God's guidance. She had so many reasons of not trusting in God. Because imagine you are born and you find yourself no parents, and you're even in a foreign land, and you know that your people is kind of marginalized. Is not part of the kingly consideration. So Esther really had so many reasons. But Mordecai's faith was again transferred to Esther. And Mordecai told Esther, we are special people to God. You can't see God in the picture, but maybe God might use you to do, wonders.
Something big.
He can use you in his plan. So that was the motivation of Esther. And Esther walked in that Godfidence. That's a new term. It's no longer confidence. God, the confidence you have in God, Godfidence. She walked in that Godfidence, knowing that she's not seeing what is ahead, but she knows someone is with him. So Esther wasn't an average queen. She was a godly queen. She believed in God, and that really helped her to navigate through all life uncertainties. And we can relate with that.
And she went and she talked to the king,
Yeah.
whom I don't remember the name.
Ahasuerus, Artaxerxes.
Yeah,
those are
okay, that I can know,
synonyms. Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
So, and then she went in and she wasn't announced, which was a huge thing. So before going to talk to the king, anyone should be announced.
Definitely.
Yeah, and then she went in that, and she could be killed.
Definitely.
Yeah, she could be killed. But also before talking to the king, she had this time of prayer.
Praying for 3 days, actually.
For
Prayed
3 days.
With her maid servants.
Yeah.
It took 3 full days to pray for just that encounter with the king.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, the whole trusting thing
Yeah.
goes with praying,
Definitely.
because you cannot trust the one that you don't talk to.
Yeah.
And if you talk to him, I guess it brings you more trust. You know, you talk like, okay, do you believe that God still talk?
Yeah, he does.
He does.
Yeah,
And
all the time.
yeah, how
But it's
does
up to us to listen.
yeah,
It's unfortunate that he talks all the time, but we don't listen all the time.
yeah,
Yeah.
true. That like, because we don't listen, then we cannot trust,
Yeah.
because we don't know him
We
really.
miss out on so many things from God
Right.
simply because we don't listen to him.
Yeah, yeah,
But still, he's patient with us, you know.
yeah,
He's not that, discouraged when we don't listen. He just gives a second chance, hoping that maybe
yeah,
sometime we'll listen.
yeah.
Mm.
Not second, maybe a lot of chances.
So many chances. So it's
Yeah.
many chances.
Well, I'm blessed to have this verse, which is found in Proverbs.
Yes.
Proverbs 3, verse 5 and 6. It says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding.
Yes.
In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your path straight. This verse is very vast, because it tells us to trust the Lord with all our hearts. All.
Yeah.
When it says all, it's
All.
all.
Yeah.
It's everything, every single thing.
Mm.
And lean not on your own understanding, which I think it's the key.
Yes.
Because we always understand ourselves. Like, I will not do this because I'm not feeling it.
Mm.
I will not go because I cannot, because everything that I see is the doors are blocked.
Yeah.
That's the term we all use. But it is saying, don't trust your understanding.
Yeah.
Which brings me to the term that is really used these days on TikToks and everything, which they say, be you.
Or believe in yourself.
It's kind of like that.
Yeah.
Like, be you. You don't have to trust anyone else, because
Or
you are you.
Trust your guts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just be you.
Mm.
Be you. Do not. You don't have to submit to anyone. Which this verse contradicts, because it says, do not lean on your own understanding.
Yeah.
Which is very challenging, again, because we always listen our own voices. Yeah, and we shouldn't, because God should be, there is this song, I don't know if you know it, which is, the name is Jesus Take the Wheel. Do you know the song? Maybe you don't. It's Carrie Underwood's song. A lot of years ago, she had this idea, which was brilliant, because she's saying, Jesus, take the wheel, because I cannot take this on my own.
Oh, yes.
she surrenders.
That's trust. That's full trust.
That's
you
full
know.
trust. She's actually she's saying the story of this mother who was going through a lot, and then she took the ride with her kid back on the back seat, and she was going through a lot, so she really had this high speed without knowing. And then when she recognized that she was, having those, she was not controlling, she just said, Jesus, take the wheel.
The wheel. Oh.
Take the wheel, which is beautiful.
It's a beautiful song.
Yeah, it's a beautiful song. She's saying, I surrender everything to you, God, because I cannot do this on my own. So that term of yours, no, you shouldn't use it. You shouldn't use it. I think it's ridiculous. But also, I know you have this other person from the Bible, maybe you thought, to tell us how he trusted God even though he didn't see further.
Yes, I'm actually used to relate with Joseph, who was a youth, and right from the beginning, he knew that he was his father's favorite.
Yes, beloved.
Right?
Yes.
And I can relate,
Can
we are
you?
the beloved of God. Right?
Yeah.
And some years back, I think I realized that God's favored child.
That's beautiful.
And that's where my nickname came from.
Favor.
Yeah. That's when I realized
Now
that
I
I'm God's favored. Now you
understand.
understand. You can connect the dots.
Yeah.
But then looking into the life of Joseph, from the beginning, he knew that he was his father's favorite, son.
Yeah.
And even the siblings, they really knew that he was really the favorite of Jacob. But then something hit. You remember when he was bringing, I would say, some snacks or lunch to his brothers.
To the brothers.
Who had gone to take good care of, the sheep. That's when they plotted against him.
Yeah.
And you can now imagine a Joseph who thought he was his father's favorite, but yet his whole family almost is turning, its back on him. He found himself in a pit.
Yeah.
You see? And he was having a near-death experience.
Yeah.
Because he was wondering what will happen after this pit. Maybe they're going to leave me here.
Yeah.
Or maybe they're going to kill me. And remember, Joseph had dreams.
Yeah.
He had dreams that would become a great person.
Yeah.
But I believe that his dreams kind of vanished when he was in that pit.
Absolutely.
When the uncertainty hit in the pit, I can sense, Joseph's emotions. Joseph, those things about God, they are not true. You are about to die.
Yeah.
But Joseph, I believe, in one sense, his faith kept on, hanging on. And you remember how he was sold out to the Ishmaelites, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
He was taken as a servant in Potiphar's house. And now, maybe he thought, I think those dreams might come true. Now, I'm in someone's, Potiphar was a noble man. He was respected.
Yes.
He said, maybe Potiphar will be a gateway to my dream. But you remember what will happen.
Yeah.
Potiphar's wife, kind of, tested Joseph's faithfulness to God. And maybe thinking that out of his faithfulness, he would be promoted. But guess what? Out of his faithfulness, he found himself in a dungeon.
Yeah.
It wasn't a mere prison. A dungeon was deeper than a prison.
Yeah.
It was like a pit that was, made, and it was so dark.
Yeah.
Now, see Joseph in a dungeon. Previously,